Once upon a time, there was a man. His name was Nico Schultz. He was an 800-meter runner going into his first ever collegiate season. The year is 2023, and he's super excited to run because the season before, he had gotten a stress fracture in his leg and redshirted his entire freshman season. So the stage is set. All the work from the summer has paid off. The grueling hot days running outside, the painful lifting, the deadly circuits that made him want to pass out, all that work was about to be brought to light at his first ever 800-meter run in college. He opens up his season at Texas Tech, where he runs an indoor time of 1:53, and he is super upset with his performance. So he goes home disappointed and trains even harder for the next race. 2 weeks go by and he trains vigorously and he is locked in. And so he goes and opens up on his home track again with a time of 1:50.01 with a second place finish. And he is thrilled with this time, but again, it's still not good enough for him. So he trains even harder for the next meet. He travels down to Arkansas where he competes against some of the nation's best 800-meter runners. And he's locked in, ready to show the world that he is capable of running a sub 150 800-meter time indoors. And he lines up for this race in the furthest outside alley. He's in the fast heat, and then the gun goes off. Bam! He leads the race from start to finish with a blazing time of 148.8 indoors and completely surpasses the goal time of 149. He did it. He accomplished his goal. All that work that he put in has finally paid off. There is nothing in the world that can make him upset in the heart of this moment. He breathes a sigh of relief, and then something unforeseen happens within him. He feels done. He feels that the goal he set out to do has been reached, and that this is where the start of the end begins. They say that there is beauty in the struggle and ugliness in the success, that hard times create strong men, and that easy times create weak men. Nico has lost that fire in him, the fire that made him who he was in that moment. Everything leading up to that race gave Nico a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, a mission to look forward to, an internal fire that couldn't be put out until he simply reached that goal. And anyone or anything in the way of him and his success would simply be destroyed on that track or just cut out of his life because he didn't need it. But after that race, it was all gone. He shows up to the next practice, happy, content, and living in the past. The weeks prior to that race, he had discipline. He was sharp, dedicated, and pushed by the fear of not achieving his goals. But now, he was simply just showing up and wearing his old accomplishments on his sleeve with no future desire and an ego twice the size of the house he was living at. He believed that he was the best and that he was entitled to winning every race from then on out. But man, did he learn fast that that was the furthest from the truth. Once you become successful in college track, you face a new challenge. It's the challenge called consistency. Yes, you ran fast, but now you have a target on your head from all the other athletes in your event group. They want what you have, and you have to defend that reputation of yours like your life depends on it, or else you're gonna fall right back to the bottom of the food chain. And unfortunately for Nico, that is exactly what happened to him. He showed up to his next meet at the conference championship cocky, overconfident, and ultimately got owned in the finals of the 800. And he didn't care. He then went on to his outdoor season. After a long spring break of simply not sleeping good, eating healthy, setting his goals, or even caring about his future success on that track, he was too busy enjoying his old accomplishments. And once that outdoor season hit, reality hit even harder. He opened up his outdoor season with an underachieving time of 1:53 and the last place finish at Texas. He then realized that he has to start taking his training serious, but by then the damage was already done and it was too late for him to get back to what he already had. He adopted bad habits as he simply just ate away his fitness that he worked so hard to maintain during his fall training. His body was fatigued because he simply did not recover properly. And although in his mind he thought he was doing enough, he knew deep down in his soul and his heart that he had given up on the true dream of becoming an elite athlete across the entire NCAA. As more meets approached, he began to doubt his ability. He even began not wanting to go or even compete. He'd show up to these competitions and simply just want to go back home in his room, doing whatever he was doing, not competing on that track because he was fearing what was to come next. And he had a right to. After every race, he was on the ground in grueling pain because his fitness was not up to par, his mental was weak, and the worst of all, his spirit was broken. Once he finished up his last race of the year, running an exact time of 150.00 outdoors, he couldn't wait to be done. Internally, he said to himself, or thought to himself, that was his last track race he'd ever run, because he simply wanted to quit that bad. And for a sport that he used to love so much, he was hurt and, quite simply put, down bad and wanted nothing to do with it. But he knew he was destined for greatness. Deep down in his soul, no matter how far gone he may have been on the outside, there was something internally reminding him of the man/athlete he had to become. There was something bigger than himself, bigger than he could ever dream of or imagine becoming. And once he took a well-needed 2-week break and a long time of reflection, he looked himself in the mirror and said, "Never again. It's time to get back to work." He then proceeded to script out a list of non-negotiables that he would take place during his next track season and training leading up to the season. He wrote down that he would never eat junk food while competing again, that he wouldn't party, go out, or do anything that would negatively affect his energy during his competition season. He would never question his coaching and would put his full trust and belief into his training. And finally, he said to himself that he would start taking himself more serious. And by doing that, he would start giving back to his community as he's always dreamed of doing. So he hit record and started his own YouTube channel to inspire other runners to reach their max potential on the track and in life. And with this new mindset that Nico adopted, he quickly elevated and got back to feeling like his old self again. Although this time, stronger, wiser, and most importantly, he was faster. With this new mindset, he started off his season with a bang and ran a personal best time of 148.1 in 2024, which put him at the number 2 800-meter all-time time ever ran at Nebraska. And then the next week, he went down to the same track where everything went downhill the year previous, and he went 147.7. But the only difference this time around was he was humble, patient, and hungry for more success. Although his conference championship the next week was unsuccessful, he still saw the bigger picture of his outdoor season, as he trained harder than he ever did during that spring break, and he went on to open up his outdoor season with a time of 147.4, another personal best, and a time that got him under the minimum standard for the Olympic trials. He then went on to Drake Relays, where he had one of his most memorable comebacks of his track career and dove across the finish line for the win with the personal best split time in the SMR 800 of 146.3. But that moment had already happened for Nico. With all the sacrifices he had made with his sleep, diet, dedication to his craft, and self-belief, that moment was created months in advance. All he had to do was go out there, believe in himself, and give it his all. He realized that he couldn't hide from himself or his training, and that what was done behind closed doors will always find a way to shine, both good and bad. Only this time around, he made sure it was not only good, but that it was simply legendary. And as he still is in the heart of the season, he still holds himself to these high standards, as his goal is not care how he feels on a day-to-day basis, but whether or not he still puts in the work every day, and most importantly, that he still believes he is capable of all the things he sets himself out to achieve. What I hope you as a viewer can take away from this video and this story is to understand that no matter how fast or how slow you are, your reality can be whatever it is you want it to be. If you dedicate yourself to being a champion day in, day out, you will arrive at your destination in due time. And the same is with the reverse. If you ignore the little things, become arrogant, act oblivious to your goals, and misalign your actions with the person you plan to become, you will ultimately fail in the long run. I was not always the fastest, but one thing that separated me from my competition, it was my ability to bounce back after devastating moments in my life. So many races that I was meant to win were lost in horrific fashion. So many unfortunate events in my personal life that had me questioning my love for the sport and lacking reasoning to go on. All this to say, nevertheless, all these moments, the good, the bad, and everything else in between, made me who I am today. The runner you see running on your screen, the guy diving across the finish line, the guy still smiling after a loss and a win, and the person who is attempting to make a positive change in his world. He realizes that in order to achieve greatness in his life, you have to be willing to sacrifice fun times. To leave a legacy that is worth remembering, You must understand that delayed gratification will serve your future self better than your present self. And this takes an immense amount of discipline and self-belief beyond imagination. But I was able to achieve this and live it. And I am here to tell you today that you can accomplish this too in absolutely anything you want to be in this life. So I will end this video with 2 questions. Why not you? And most importantly, why not now?